Hey, y'all, I'm getting just as slow about coming on as some other folks that drive me crazy. Okay, this has been a wild ride for me the last couple of days, especially. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titcomber. I used to write a blog called No Longer Quivering, a daily column about the quiverful movement, some of which I'm going to talk a little bit about today. Let me just say these are my opinions. Don't believe that I'm going to talk about at all. Don't go real life. Don't even be rude. If you can't be nice, don't say anything, is kind of how the way I'm looking at it. I have to throw this out right away. I have been very slow about doing a Jill Duggar Dillard book review. Hey, Celine, you have some exciting news? We'll throw it out here before I get into doing this quasi book review and then revealing my own silly news. Jill's book, was written and sent out sometime before, but I've been having difficulty getting off beyond where Jill gave birth to Samuel because of it's just extremely triggering if you've been through all of this. I had my sexual debut. It was awesome. That's all I'm going to say. Way to go. High fives. That is awesome. And up yours, Lori, and everybody else that says you shouldn't be doing that. That's good. I'm so glad to hear that. I know you were really concerned about that. I've been gone, as you well know, for 3 or 4 days because of my husband's thing. So I got to talk about that in a little while too. It's been a really difficult week, so I started rereading Jill's book and taking notes. So this is going to be a short little thing, and then I'm going to move on to Bobby the Robot Cat and creators and the whole 9 yards. I got to the part where it's the quote, God opens and closes the womb. And I'm just like this because Jill is dealing with something that was a reality when I was part of the quiverful movement, which is, what about your fertility? What happens if you are unable to have oodles of kids? What is that like? Well, I know a little bit about that. She talked about after the birth of Samuel, she wasn't sure she wanted or could have another child. Her dad pretty much straight up shamed her with some of the things he was saying. He kept talking about infertility and quiverful. There's all kinds of big guilt connected with that. It is just the worst of the worst because everybody is looking at you, judging you. Everybody will come up with stupid reasons why they think you're having infertility. I remember in my old Possum Creek church, I had people telling me that one of the reasons that I couldn't have any more children while I kept having miscarriages was because I liked a certain diet soda. Oh, where are you, beloved diet soda? I'm going to have another. Because I loved a certain diet soda. And there was something else they were telling me that was equally absurdist. This one gal pulled me aside and whispered in my ear it was because of the diet soda, number one. And number two, it was because I had unconfessed sin in my life. So if you have infertility, you're going to be judged as having unconfessed sin in your life. Even if you were completely sinless, they're going to say that. It's your unconfessed sin. If you could just... Hey, Bliss, how are you doing? Are you staying out of the Baltimore water? Are you not swimming in the bay? That you just made me laugh yesterday so hard with that. So anyway, she was talking about having all kinds of fearful thoughts, questioning her upbringing, thinking it was sin to even be questioning anything, but she was doing it. She started having a fear of judgment of others, fear of questions. And that's pretty understandable when you're having fertility questions and maybe not doing things the way everybody else would. She said she had guilt but relief at not going through a zillion pregnancies. And that was her word, not mine, zillion. And a zillion deliveries. Cortisol is very hard to swallow if you're not used to it, and you really don't want 10 trillion kids. It's a problem. And she was upset, thinking, why was God closing her womb? And Jill said she was very lonely and isolated, and her siblings very rarely visited, and she wasn't necessarily welcomed at the home place, at the tin mansion there. So she said, quote, she had chosen to move on, unquote, chosen to move on, unquote. That was the quote, chosen to move on. And there was nobody for her to safely discuss her deconversion thoughts with. That's a problem when you're dealing with this crap. A Jill quote that just, I swear, Jesus, I felt like crying was, people were always assuming things about us or itching to be the first to report anything negative. Does that remind you of somebody I'm about to talk to? It was with an attractive older man, and he made me feel like a princess. It was attentive to my needs. Celine, that sounds like you had a really good plan and it worked for you. I'm so glad. I am so glad. So all of this, people like without a crystal ball who are eager to report any negative, actually prevented Jill Duggar Dillard from getting any kind of help whatsoever. She was taught that to question anything was dangerous. Okay, one of the dangers of growing up in one of these groups is that there's no self-ownership, there's no self-awareness, there's no self-anything. You're taught to have self is sinful and wrong. And once you start having that journey, if you're having a rough time of it, it becomes even more difficult when people are gossiping about it and writing articles and doing these things, these online things, these YouTube discussions, because everybody starts to look at you in your little group. And we've seen some kids that have ended up doing the unalive thing because they felt like they were so exposed. They were in their little group and not hiding anymore. So that's always a problem. Jim Bob always tried to find out the ID of leakers and gossipers. So I'm guessing pretty hard that he knew who Katie Joy was. He knew who I was, too, I know for sure. Control. He was a control freak, and he was suspicious of everyone. Are you familiar with Just Pearly Things? She's so annoying. Yes, I was just looking at something she posted and something that she sent to something that she sent to Lori Alexander. She sent Lori Alexander a T-shirt that says, talks about women not voting. You had to mute her. Oh yeah, I had to too. It's just too much. It was just crazy. So Jim Bob, here's a Jim Bob quote that gives me horror. Other people don't really understand, and they might be jealous. Let me tell you something. Those of us that oppose what's going on in that group, it's not jealousy. It's anything but. It's fear for those girls, fear for those boys, fear for anybody locked into the IBLP world. She had no ability to be real with the ladies of the church, and that was really sad. She said it felt fake and she hated it. Occupying a liminal space is one of the most difficult things that a person can do. One of the most difficult things and one of the most necessary things is to occupy that space between point A and point B. And sometimes it's useful just to sit there. Yeah, hey, Mr. Wolf, I know you're here too. Yeah, exactly. You guys, Pearly thinks has no life experience to speak on marriage. The other day, she posted a picture of a girl in a bikini who was a little chubby in places, but it wasn't gross. It was just the angle that the picture was shot from. Hey, Sue Elliott. And the girl's gut and her behind were hanging out, and you could see she wasn't wearing a bra with her bikini, because who would? Pearlie started talking about this woman being obese. And I was kind of blown away because Pearlie is not 100% just the things. It's not very, how should I put this kindly? Because I don't like body shaming, okay? She's less than perfect. Let's just put it that way. And who really cares? Just don't look if you don't like it. Exactly, Bliss. Why take pictures of somebody else? I don't want to come for Pearl's looks. She's not a dainty little flower either. Selena, I don't either. But to post that gross photograph and call that woman obese while you yourself are not a 10 is the worst hypocrisy on the planet. But we're talking about these hypocrisy things. And I was just getting ready to talk about fakeness and facades in quiverful, evangelical, non-denominational, high-demand religious organizations. It's all about the facade. The fake face you put on that covers everything else up. How are you doing? Fine. Instead of saying, well, the husband hasn't worked in 9 months. We're living on food stamps. I've got 3 holes in my outfit. Instead of saying that, instead of being real, you're going to, I'm so perfect. I'm so perfect. And she does that. She comes to women's bodies and looks, and no one would come after her if she kept quiet. Celine, exactly. Okay, so they found a new church, and it sounds like just a standard Southern Baptist church and had no IBLP vibes or rules. They talked only of Jesus, love, and grace. A variety of folks, some had tattoos, and some women wore pants. She kept talking to Derek about Deuteronomy 22:5, which is the verse that Jim Bob Duggar has always used to force his daughters to wear not to wear pants. And Jill said she was blown away when Derek said this. Derek quote, seeing a woman wearing pants doesn't make me have bad thoughts. I never thought I would say this, but Derek is the hero we all need, but especially Jill needs. And I was so happy to hear Derek have normal views on all of this. And we're really talking about like venial and mortal sins. We're talking about refined sugar sins, as my pastor used to call it. Sins that might be personal sins to you, but they don't really apply to everybody else, everyone across the board. Personal convictions versus hard line sins. And that's the same thing that Just Pearlie Things is talking about. She thinks that her personal convictions are our problem, okay? That we are the ones with these things going on. We are not. These are her personal convictions. And it's fine to have personal convictions. It's not fine to have personal convictions and push them on everybody else in Christendom and say, you must do it this way or else, or else, or else. Pearl's mom is the complete opposite of her, too. Well, that makes sense. She's rebelling against her mom. And I've seen that myself. I've had my own share of that with my daughters. It's normal. It's very normal to have rebellion because that's the way that you separate yourself from your parents. And so when you make the break and you go out on your own, your parents are kind of like, see ya. And you're like, see ya. Because that's what you really need in order to make that separation. Pearl's mom is a boss with 10 kids and is the CEO of David Ware Company. Good for her. I'm glad to hear that. That's a positive role model that Just Pearlie Things could take comfort from if only she dared. But no. So many people are trying to be influencers all across the board, okay? And that kind of segues into the whole Katie Joy incident segment that I want to talk about. Not really an incident. Bobby the Cat, who I happen to like, even though he once went after me, and he had a point, did a video. He just did this video, and I kind of laughed because he had some good points. He said that the anti-community has made Katie Joy Paulson without a crystal ball famous, and there's some truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that, and I think that it behooves us mostly to say, Katie, who? I have no clue who you're talking about. Because if we stop talking about her, what's going to happen is others will stop talking about her. There'll be less exposure of her. Fewer people will know who she is. I'm just kind of done with all this. And I have friends that are still fighting the fight, and that is on them entirely. You know, Bobby started talking about who was and wasn't in and who was doing what. And I think we're all kind of guilty of it. I know I am. And I just want to end this. I've got enough other things going on, which is what the other thing I want to talk about. My lovely necklace. It's hand carved. I like it. We just came back from 3 days in San Jose. My husband had a prostate biopsy. We're waiting to hear back, but the doctor's already talking about. He's already talking about coming back for treatment. So that's where we are. I'm not in a great place in my mind at this moment because there's just so much stuff going on, and I'm having to file 50 trillion things with insurance every time you turn around. And I get cranky when I'm dealing with insurance, but I didn't really want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the Hotel Balmoral. I know you guys, I was going, oh, thank you, Sue Elliott. I was going on and on and on about this hotel because the hospital that we go to, that Blue Cross Blue Shield will pay for in San Jose, that has some of the better doctors, is in the oldest part of the city. It's off to the side of the oldest part of the city. You got the city center, and then you got this hospital, and then you have these other historic hospitals around it. And every time we go and we're at that particular location, we have to find a place to stay in downtown San Jose. And San Jose is, I'm just going to tell you, this is a clusterfuck of stupid. Oops, I'm sorry I said that word. Okay, so I said it once. I had to write page after page of instructions on how to leave and draw a map to get from our hotel to the main road, to Rutas Una, Route 1, Panamanian Highway, to get back up here. So that tells you there is not a GPS program that works well in San Jose. Even if you could get it to pull up, I couldn't even get my phone to connect to the GPS program to get in or out of San Jose. So we had a mess. But the Hotel Balmoral was absolutely lovely. It was gorgeous. So if you have to come to San Jose for any reason, I highly recommend it. It was in the oldest part of the city. The hotel is on Calle Central, okay? And our balcony overlooked the pedestrian mall. They have shut down Calle Central. It's just shut down. It's walking blocks and blocks and blocks. It is gorgeous. San Jose is just a mess. It is, like I said, I slipped and said the F word. It is that kind of a mess. And driving is like, you might have 5 roads coming together and they're going off in all different directions, and there's no clear directions or signs. There are no street signs usually. You have to really look hard to see where you're going. And it's kind of confusing because they have calles and they have avenidas, and they're usually numbered. But you see, you might come to calle 301, then the next one might be calle 20, and then the one after that might be calle 420. So the numbers don't make sense. The streets don't make sense. I'm from the country, and that's wonderful. That is what I say Costa Rica's truest natural resource is, their best one, are their people. And I can't say enough good things about this particular hotel, Hotel Balmoral. The food was fabulous. They had like 3 or 4 on-site restaurants. They were right up on that pedestrian mall. Jim was rejoicing because our hotel was across the street from the KFC. I was rejoicing because we were a block from Starbucks, and I hadn't had Starbucks in forever. Moving here, I had to give up Starbucks. Well, I had my pumpkin spice latte. They didn't have any scones, but that was okay. So I had to laugh because we got to see all kinds of weird stuff when we were there, including a pro-Palestinian march that I was interested to watch that came right past our window. And the hotel, as soon as they saw me staggered in with my cane, said, let's upgrade your room. So they upgraded the room, and when we got to the room, we discovered they put us in the handicapped room, which is upgraded. So that was nice. Very nice. And the people there are fabulous. We walked around with our last morning there. My husband was finally well enough to get up and walk around. We walked down to the Musée d'Oro, the Gold Museum. We walked down to the main plaza there. There were parks everywhere. I can't wait to go back. The next time we go back and Jim has treatment, we're going to book an extra day and we're going to walk around the downtown area and go to all the museums and all of the hotels, the restaurants, just all the stuff, and just take a look around. And it was just wonderful. So I love it. It's so nice when I see people from my hometown. I see one girl's parents who was 2 grades above me, and dad is a pilot, mama's a foot doctor. Such amazing people. That is good. That's good. Well, it's kind of funny because I bought this necklace off a guy. It's all hand carved like coconut hull, okay, which I love coconuts, so this fits for me. And I had to laugh because some of the designs on these I've seen pre-Columbian artwork with a similar design, so I was like interested in that necklace. And it is indigenous peoples made here, because they have some indigenous peoples, native groups here. They're really interesting, and I've gone and looked at some of them. We lived in Cope de Dotoa, that was very close to where they all are. So he was telling me he was indigenous, and the surprise was that I started dickering, and I managed to do some bargaining like a champ and got this for a lot less. So we asked, got a 50% off discount just by, and I haven't done that kind of haggling since I lived in the US, and I used to go to Mexico every now and then and haggle like mad, or go into some of the flea markets and things and haggle. So this was a new one for me. It was an old unused thing I haven't done in forever. I got to use Spanish correctly, and I was like a champ this whole trip on that. So it was really a nice trip, even though it was for a very unpleasant reason. My town has less than 5,000 people. I don't know how many people we have here. I know that it goes to a million once high season hits. Well, it can go up to that. With all the millions of little villages around here, it gets insane. You can't even drive. We stay home. We leave. We try to flee from Christmas to New Year's because it's just miserable here. It's the highest. There's 2 weeks of the year that are high season, Christmas and Easter. And it's just like, That's how bad it can get here with everybody and their brother coming here. So we don't do that. We try to stay away. And we're staying away again this year for Christmas. So that's going to be pretty much it. I just had to update everybody. It's going to take 2 weeks for the biopsies to come back. So who knows? Oh, Bermuda's a nice place. You'll enjoy that. They have really beautiful beaches. Very beautiful beaches in Bermuda. And there you go. So beaches are my favorites. I've got to get off here and finish my ridiculous submission of stuff to Blue Cross. Okay, you guys. Thank you for watching. Love you guys. Have a great Saturday afternoon. After I do Blue Cross, I have a couple protest banners to make for when I'm in DC. I may be going to some protests. I don't know.